All right, well, this is Indecisive Cinema, episode 24.
24.
Yeah, I still can't believe we've done 24 of these. I know that there's other podcasts out there that have done like hundreds of episodes, but
hundreds.
you know,
I mean, lives. You're busy all the time, bro.
Yeah, we're busy people, but nothing wrong with that. But
no, amen.
Yeah, we do have pop filters. I don't know if it's going to help at all.
I mean, you can't hear it on your end.
Well, it's like I don't know. It's supposed to help with the P's and the S's, but who knows? Who knows? Hopefully, we're trying to improve the quality every week for the three people listening.
Jeremy Knight.
So yeah, we've got a fair amount of movies to talk about this week. We're gonna do a little bit of news, which we don't normally do.
Yeah.
But there's just a few things that have come up that I think are interesting to talk about over the past couple weeks. We did. When was our last episode? 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And I actually got it uploaded like right after.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, episodes 20 through 22 are not up there, but we got to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, we're finally actually getting everything posted in a timely fashion, which is good. I mean, that's all on me, obviously.
That's all right. You take your time, brother.
But anyway, that's the nice thing about doing this audio podcast instead of video. I'm so glad we're not doing that anymore. I know we talk about it like every week, but so the first thing on our list to talk about is essentially it's something that Steven Spielberg came out after the Oscars. And I don't actually know if he did an interview. I don't know exactly what the source of this comment or this whole discussion came from.
Ask you,
But he essentially said something along the lines of like trying to make a push so that Netflix films aren't able to be nominated for Oscars because they don't actually play theatrically, which I don't know that I agree with.
I don't agree either.
Right. So, I mean, I've heard kind of both sides of this argument because I understand I would love for everything to be released in theaters, even Netflix films. There's no question about it, but it's more expensive. Mm-hmm. You know, Netflix, they're already producing these movies or sometimes they're just acquiring them. But most of the time, you know, a lot of them they're paying for and funding.
Exactly. But I think that's the key, the acquiring of, because all movies sit in somebody's back a lot until somebody, you know, distributes them, a major theater, into theaters. And these, and not all of them, but you're right. There's, I'd say a good 30-40% are films that were supposed to be in theaters and maybe a studio backed out for whatever reason or sat on it. And then Netflix came along and says, I'll buy it and I'll put it on my show. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And that's not fair. So that means, like, say you make a film and, you know, they're like, I don't know this kid. But Netflix says, oh, this is a really good film. I'm gonna acquire it. We're going to put it on Netflix. How is that fair to the filmmaker? You know what I mean? It's not fair to the filmmaker that their films
not being played where they should,
intended
to be.
Yeah, correct.
Well, and there's a movie, and I'll use it as an example, but we'll get to the actual review of it later. But Triple Frontier, which is J.C. Chandor's latest film, with a great cast and everything.
Great cast.
That's a movie that's made to be seen on the big screen, and it's only available on Netflix, at least in Houston. I don't know if it played anywhere else, but it's weird to see kind of a pretty big budget Hollywood kind of studio. At least it looks like a studio film. Or at least a big Hollywood film. You're playing only on my TV at home. Like it's just it's kind of odd because the movie feels bigger than the screen that it's made for, or that it was at least released on. And that's it's strange to me. So again, obviously, I think I come at it from a perspective of I would love for every film to be released. That being said, regardless of whether or not something's released on the big screen or not, if it's a movie, it's a movie. Ultimately, I mean, obviously, you've got some like documentary stuff that, or like I don't know, we'll talk about Leaving Neverland, which is basically a film, but it's a 2-part, 2 hour. It's 4 hours total. So it's like there's some gray area when you get into that kind of stuff where there's like episodic, like a mini series that's only 3 episodes. Like how do we classify that kind of stuff? But if it's a movie, it's an hour and a half to 2 hour runtime or whatever, anywhere in that general range, regardless of whether or not it was released in theaters, like it should still qualify for the Oscars because it's a movie that was released in that year.
And I agree. And I'm pretty sure that Michael Jackson documentary might get some play next year. But I agree. I mean, it's like, you said something before and I wanted to get on it. But yeah, it's like, these movies, like bringing up Triple Frontier, which I guess it's later on the list. Now, was that movie not? It's like, but I'm like, we should have done research. Like, was it supposed to be released in theaters? And
I'm sure Netflix it was just acquired.
You,
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's the question though. Is like if Netflix produces a film themselves, or if they just purchase it, like how do you distinguish?
And
how do you differentiate
that? Yeah. So I mean.
Because ultimately, that movie was made to be played on the big screen. It, like just from the visual, it's shot in a way that, like, I don't know. It just feels it's a big budget action film. So it wasn't something that was really made to be seen on Netflix. But at the same time, it's like, why would you disqualify that from? I don't think that movie's that good. But
I was going to say that's why I'm like holding back. I'm saying I'm going to wait for us to review it. I agree. I mean, I think, and I'm thinking maybe, and this is what popped in my head, not to use Roma, because Roma is something different. Roma, I think, is the gem that Netflix stole from whoever, and because, that's the one that won an Academy Award, and now Netflix is, got that under their belt. But I think that in the original, when Netflix originals were coming out, when they first started buying films, like 2 years ago, people were saying, oh, well, these movies were going to go straight to video, so yeah, Netflix is fine. And I think Triple Frontier is almost in that category where I think studios were like, and then they were like, Netflix was like, I'll get it. And they're like, all right. Because that's what I feel. But like with Roma is different. Roma, you're like, shit, that should have, that I'm pretty sure Paramount, everybody's like, damn, we could have gotten that. We could have got it under our belt. We could have had an extra award.
Well, but I don't know if Roma would have done well in theaters, though. That's the hard part.
It's a foreign film.
I know Triple Frontier would have done well in theaters. I feel like maybe not really been a huge box office success, but it would have at least made.
But I think Rome. But remember, foreign films is different. Foreign films are hits anyway with the indie, the independent cinema, the art house, and then they win the award. So you really can't. I guess Roma in that aspect, any foreign film. You're right, and documentary too.
Any film could be a hit commercially.
I mean, because we have a film on the list there that was a big film that won an Academy Award as well. That's a documentary. But again, I mean, those films aren't going to play well in theaters anyway. I mean, those are critic darlings and like, foreign film, documentary. Those are movies and none of us, not to say we wouldn't see it. I mean, I love documentary. I don't know if I'll go to a theater to see a documentary. But the same thing with foreign film. I love foreign film, but I really wouldn't go to a theater to see foreign film. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I'll catch it on cable. And I think that's where that comes in, where with that. But I mean, something like Triple Frontier, I'm trying to think now of all like Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yeah.
That's a film, again, that would have been an art house type film, and it wouldn't have been a big budget film.
We talked about that last week being a pretty good movie for the Netflix platform. Because it wasn't, even though it's well made, it's not it's not something that was made to be seen on the big screen. Or, I mean, even if it was, it doesn't need to be seen on the big screen.
Because that's what I was going to say.
It would still be good on the big screen.
Because now, since we're talking about movies like that, like... I mean, because then does the director say, shit, you're not going to release my film in the theater? So, it's like, well, we will, but let's see what we get. And then, because I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, now that you say it, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, J.C. Chandor has only had really 2 big films. And I'm saying, I don't know. I mean, now that you do that, now I'm starting to think, like, for the director's point of view, like, when a studio says, yeah, this film is not our priority, like Captain Marvel, that's our priority. But that's not. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, even if you want to use like straight to DVD back in the day. I mean, to some degree, that's essentially what it is. Even though
that's what I'm saying.
Even though more people get to see the film, it's
correct. It's like So now there's no more straight to DVD, which it's a death sentence to any film.
Yeah.
And now it's we're going to release it on Netflix, and that's kind of better because that
at least people will see
it's there, as opposed to I'm going to go to a Blockbuster. There's no more video rentals. We're going to Redbox. Let me see. I'm going to see bigger film. Captain Marvel as opposed to Free Solo or Roma or whatever. But now with Netflix, you're flicking and they always have a little, like the big hit films they try to push pop up on that little trailer. It automatically pops up. So people might say, yeah, I'll check that out. So there's a better chance of them seeing that film as opposed to being direct to video, which I always thought was a death sentence when a movie said, direct to video. And I'm like,
Yeah. It's just, I mean, ultimately, it's just so weird that big name filmmakers like Spielberg would come out and be against like those films being included in the Oscars. Like I know that Spielberg's films he's thankfully had commercial success his entire career.
And I was going to say something like,
but like the fact of the matter is the Oscars are all about celebrating movies in general, regardless of whether or not we talked about that last week. Regardless of whether or not they accomplish celebrating the right movies. At least the goal is to award films that are deserving of it. And so the fact of the matter is, like, regardless of what film, I don't know, I think that every movie should have a chance at that, because
I agree,
a movie like Roma gets more attention than, and I still haven't seen it, but I've heard great things.
3 months later, I haven't seen it.
But ultimately, it's like that's what it's like. Everybody should be able to play that game.
I don't want to go off on a tangent because we don't have a lot of time, but I'm starting to think, well, why would Steven Spielberg even say that? Being a filmmaker, why would he was it like you said?
And I don't want to criticize him as much because I just don't know the context and everything. I just was interested in the discussion of whether or not
let's not get into
on-demand streaming films should be considered for the Oscars. And I think they should be, as long as they fit into non-television category. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I agree with that. Yeah.
So ultimately, I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing. And then the second thing is James Gunn being fired and then rehired by Disney.
Thank God.
Well, I mean, obviously we're glad that we got a happy ending to that. But just what a stupid thing to do. How imagine if your employer fired you and then was like, "Hey, we were wrong. Sorry, come on back." Like I'd just give him the middle finger. I guess that he's being paid a fair amount of money.
Well, you got to understand something. And again, I was happy. I mean, I think we talked about, not me and you, but me and I'm trying to think if it was just Rondo or somebody else. I was saying Disney's stupid because you have this big film of Guardian Galaxy, which I'll be honest, when it was first announced, I wasn't really on board because I wasn't a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. And then that movie was amazing. And then Part 2 came out, and Part 2 was even better. And when they're like, oh yeah, something you did 10 years ago when a fight for, which again, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I think that's so stupid that people are doing that. But again, now I think the backlash is they were going to rehire him anyway. They knew they weren't going to give Guardians of the Galaxy to anybody else because that movie would have flopped. They knew this, so I think they were just doing like again. I mean,
for the sake of the discussion, do you think Disney did it intentionally to create some?
That's
kind of
what I'm saying. So here I'm gonna I mean, I know Jerry's been into music. So way back when, cut to 30 years ago, when they fired Terminator X from Public Enemy, they fired him because there was controversy surrounding some words he said, but they didn't really. They fired him for the media, but he still was on the albums. He still did everything, but no one knew it because who's going to say, well, let me go to the studio and see if he's in there. Nobody did that. And then the consecutive album after it, but the second album after the firing, they rehired him. And the controversy died down by then. I think that's what Disney did here. I think they said, shit, we gotta let you go. The only reason why I think that maybe wasn't that intentional, like they said, oh, well, we're gonna hire you back. Let's just do it. Because he went and then did Suicide Squad too. He signed on for that. So I think it really was like, yeah, we're gonna fire him. We're not gonna back down. And then everybody was like, he
signs up for the competition, and they're like, whoa, come on back.
Exactly. So Suicide Squad, oh no, what are we gonna do? And I think they just said, all right, you know what? Do Suicide Squad 2. We'll delay Guardians of the Galaxy for another year. Because remember, nobody on that film wanted to do that film. Yeah. And I think they even knew, besides Dave Bautista publicly dissing and almost destroying his career, because without Guardians of the Galaxy, he doesn't really have that much, even though I did the Brooklyn film that he did a couple of years back. But anyway, other than that, it's like, I think that they would have done a movie that no one really wanted to do, and they would have gotten a really bad film, and they didn't want that. So I think they just said, you know what? All right, you're doing Suicide Squad 2, you could come back. And I'll be honest, I didn't really read about the people who were like, yay, get rid of James Gunn. I don't know if any of those people are like, hey, Disney, what are you doing? I haven't even read that shit. But the bottom line is, I think it's stupid that, again, I agree. People change, people evolve. And 10 years ago, you made a stupid joke or a comment. And granted, I'm not saying that what he said wasn't wrong. I'm just saying he was younger back then. He was stupid. He was hanging out with the team from Trauma back then.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, come on. I mean, that's So anyway, I just say I'm glad he's been hired. Now I'm excited about seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I wasn't before. And I think it was good. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I mean, I'm 100% with you. I mean, ultimately, I think Disney admitted that they kind of fucked up and brought him back, regardless of whether or not it was intentional. Like the firing was intentional from the beginning. I think they made the right decision. So
I don't think it was intentional because I don't think that he would have signed on at DC to do Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah, it's very.
If it was, he would have just laid low until they finally said, "All right, come back." 6 months later, whatever, almost a year later. But I think that's like you said. I think they said, "Oh shit, Suicide Squad 2. Oh no, what are we gonna do now?" So I think that's what happened. But that there.
Yeah, well, that's the news for this week. So
moving on to what we're gonna do.
We've got a big list of movies. So we'll save Annihilation. We'll save that
For a little
fight
bit, yeah,
for the end.
Because I know we get.
Yeah.
So what's the hole in the ground?
Well, the hole in the ground is I think it's actually like a Swedish or funded film, but I think it's set in Ireland. It's about a mother that is raising a child by herself, Babadook style, and
Babadook style, you said.
they move into this new house. They're seemingly escaping some kind of past. They're running away, is what it comes across as, and from something that we're not aware of. And her son kind of runs away and runs into the woods that are nearby the house. And they discover this giant sinkhole in the ground, in the woods, right nearby. And then something. Well, so they both discover this early in the film, and then later in the movie, he sneaks out at night, and she doesn't know where he went, and then all of a sudden she like chases out into the woods trying to find him, and then she comes back home, and he's back at home in his bed, and something's not quite right, and she begins to think that he may not be her son. Okay. And that's essentially the premise. I don't want to go into too much without spoiling it. It's hard to even.
It was a theatrical film, right?
Yeah, I saw this at Draft House a few weeks ago.
It's a horror film, then.
It is a horror film for sure.
So that's why you mentioned Babadook. Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually. That's actually not a good comparison in terms of like tonally what it's trying to do. It's a little different. Well, sort of. There's certain similarities. I don't really want to. There's a movie it pays. You may be able to guess it based on what I just told you, but. I almost don't want to say what it's definitely drawing comparison to. Okay. It's not like a sequel to it or anything. It has a very similar structure. The movie has some really interesting elements to it. I think the lead, let me pull up her name real quick.
She's cute. Yeah,
she's very good. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sienna Kerslake? I don't know. She's got like a pretty thick Irish accent. Everybody's got really thick Irish accents in this. It's funny. Or whatever accent that is. Yeah. Any of you Europeans listening, I apologize. But anyway, so there's definitely some interesting tension that's created from the fact that she thinks that her son might not be who it is, or who he is, and the movie has some interesting ideas as far as that goes, and it becomes kind of Lovecraftian towards the end, which is there's elements of it that I really enjoy, but it kind of runs out of steam, I feel like, about towards the third act, and it just doesn't really have it doesn't feel complete. Like it doesn't feel like the complete horror package in some way. I don't know. It just doesn't really like there's a few kind of key scenes, but overall it just is kind of it's just a mediocre, middle of the road kind of effort. But I don't regret seeing it. Like I said, there's some interesting visuals. Most of the stuff's in the trailer, which I didn't see before going in. But I like some of the stuff with the hole in the ground, some of the Lovecraftian stuff. Obviously, I don't have a whole lot to say about it because it's not tremendous. It's not bad. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle.
A24 produced it. I saw.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I think they just acquired it and distributed it, I believe.
Speaking of which, I don't know if we're going to go off top by saying, but have you seen the trailer for Midsommar?
Yeah. Ari Aster's new movie.
I definitely want to see that. Yeah.
Obviously, both of us
very, very
loved Hereditary and
Wicker Man-ish.
Oh, I can't wait.
I thought that was really good. Actually, it seems like a prequel too.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Because when I was watching, I was like, "Is this the religion that played heavily?"
It has this Hereditary? It's shot in this way that's like super bright and kind of light and airy and just like dreamlike.
I'm excited for her. I think I'm glad because I want to see Hereditary in theater, never got to, but I think there's going to be a film I see in theaters. Yeah.
I will definitely see that in theaters. So the hole in the ground. I guess if you're looking for a horror movie, I would say it's above average. It's better than some of the crap that we get, but it's just okay. That's my shitty review of the hole in the ground.
No, that's not good. So
what I'm looking forward to though is Us. Oh my god!
It comes out like this month.
Yeah, and it's got like 100% and like 55 reviews.
I love that trailer.
Oh god, yeah, I can't wait for that.
Appeal, bro.
anyway, hopefully that'll be amazing. But
Yeah.
this is not. But it's not. It's not bad.
It's just not caliber of us, Jordan Peele.
All right, let's get through. Let's just
Robocop.
briefly talk about Robocop. So
Have you never seen it?
I have never seen Robocop.
Really, Paul Verhoeven's masterpiece
Yeah.
from 1987. I love that movie. I love Robocop.
My brother and I, he didn't drink, but I drank, and we watched Robocop, and it's a good old time. It's very dated.
I mean, of course, it's an 80s
But that's
film.
part of the cheese of it.
Exactly.
Well,
it's cheesy to begin with. I mean,
yeah,
there's a
it's
lot
definitely
of,
a silly premise.
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
I love that. That's my favorite tagline.
Well, and is it Paul Verhoeven, right?
Verhoeven,
and he
yes.
did Starship Troopers, which
Yes,
I
a
love.
masterpiece.
I think I like that more.
Basic Instinct. I love that film.
Yeah, but I think it's just a fun kind
Yeah.
of. This isn't really a review. I just wanted to kind of talk about.
No,
RoboCop real quick.
yeah. I love Robocop.
I know the second one was shot in Houston. I
Yeah,
think.
RoboCop 2. And the funny thing was that Frank Miller, for all you guys comic nerds, Frank Miller, who wrote the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, he ended up digging it because he like did what do you call it, polish. He did a rewrite. And so he did part 2. He wrote that solely. And I actually like part 2. Not better than part 1, but I like part 2 a lot. A lot of people hate part 2, but I like part 2. And he also wrote part 3, which I think is the worst of all of them. But I love RoboCop. I think it's cheesy fun. Paul Verhoeven's over-the-top violence, was amazing.
Nancy Allen has nothing to do.
It's funny because I wanted to bring up Nancy Allen last week. We mentioned Nancy Allen, but Nancy Allen's amazing in it. I mean, regardless, even what's his name, Robert. The main actor, Robert Weller.
Peter Weller.
Peter Weller. I love him, and it's funny here. Just a real quick joke before we move on. Have you seen the new KFC commercials with the Robo Colonel? That is
okay.
Peter Weller.
Is that really
Peter
him?
Weller, and that's amazing that 30 years
is
later
great.
he's doing RoboCop again. Even
That's fun.
in Colonel Sanders'
I think
costume.
the only other thing I've seen him in is Naked Lunch, which it's
Another
a very
great-
odd
yeah,
film,
yeah,
but I like it.
Cronenberg, great movie.
Yeah, Cronenberg. Criterion has a great addition of that.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's just,
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm surprised you've never seen it.
I know, it's insane. And then, sorry, we're actually going to get through this list pretty quick, I feel like.
That's
Well,
good.
until we get to
Annihilation will take up
Annihilation.
90
Yeah.
minutes anyway. But,
We still have 10 movies, but Free Solo is the next film on our list. It's the
Best documentary.
Yeah, best documentary for the Oscars for foreign film or not foreign for documentary. Yeah, I'm sleepy. I apologize. And it's about let me pull up his name. He's just a climber. He's hiked I think he's set a bunch of world records for for climbing I don't know if it's not Mount Everest, but big mountains like that. But he also has a hobby of climbing without a rope. And
that's
which
what's a Free Solo,
somebody in the film, I think it's actually one of the filmmakers, I forget who says it, but they say something along the lines of people that don't know what he's doing, they look at that and they go, whoa, that's scary. But then the people that do know what he's doing and are understand what he's doing are way more afraid for him. And
That is interesting.
and so this is just a fantastic documentary. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I'm dying to see it. No, I want to see it.
Well, and so it gets so many things right from a standpoint of, I think you get he's an interesting guy by himself because he's a little bit cynical and is kind of a perfectionist and is one of those guys that will just kind of throw away everything in his life to get just a goal that some of us would go well, what's the point? And that's what kind of makes him really interesting. And he describes what he has challenges in his relationships with people, with his family, stuff like that, because ultimately he's doing something where he could die at any moment. And so there's there's a little bit of insanity that comes from that. He can't be kind of normally wired and go up and risk your life for something that's complete, not it's just a thing. It's just a hobby. It's not something, important necessarily. And, and I don't know, he described, I wrote down kind of a quote, or I'm paraphrasing, but he says something along the lines of anybody can be happy and cozy, but nothing good in the world comes from being happy and cozy. And so he has kind of a really dark mindset, which is a really interesting thing for a protagonist in a documentary. And then I think the film really, they interview kind of everyone surrounding, including the filmmakers themselves. They did Miru, which I haven't seen. Jimmy Chu, I think is his name.
Yeah, he's in this movie too.
Yeah, and they interview him, and they like the filmmakers themselves describe like the fact how worried they are for him, and same thing with family and friends, obviously. And he acquires a girlfriend throughout this whole process, and you kind of getting her perspective on, she loves this guy, and he's going up and could potentially kill himself.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I don't know, you get an interesting perspective, like look into these people surrounding him that care for him and how they're dealing with this. And even like when he's actually doing the climb, there's they show one of the filmmakers that's on the ground, and he like can't look, like he's like, and it's hard to watch. Like the guy just doesn't, like he's like having a physical reaction to, the stress from watching his friend go up and do this. And so there's all those things going on, which make this really interesting. And it's just beautifully shot. I mean, it's just the footage in this documentary is unbelievable, because not only is it well composed and just well shot, but you got to climb up a mountain to get the shot, And then they're also describing that like you can't, like they had to be very careful about like where they place cameras, because
that's what I was gonna ask,
they could literally kill
him.
the main guy. So it's ultimately they that was interesting to me, at least, as somebody who shoots stuff. I think it's just a really impressive accomplishment all around, and I just absolutely love it. They were even kind of describing like the brain chemistry of somebody that does free soloing, and how like, it's normal things don't excite a person that does that goes up there and,
Of course, yeah.
And so they dive into that,
It's an adrenaline junkie to the max, I think.
Yeah, and they go into kind of the main character's kind of, he described him as a character. I forgot it, just because I forgot his name already. But they describe kind of
Alex Holland,
the self-loathing that he has, and kind of the
that's interesting. That's
good enough isn't kind of mentality. And,
I like that self-loathing to do something. Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. Yeah.
And so there's some darkness here, but also just some really fascinating psychological stuff going on. And it's amazing, and it deserves. I don't know if it's my favorite documentary that I've seen from last year, because we'll talk about. You've seen Three Identical Strangers,
yeah.
Mr. Rogers. That one was really good, and American Animals. I love. Yeah. That's probably my favorite. But it's, definitely worth seeing. I think it's on like History Channel, so I think it's streaming for free for most people.
Free Solo?
Free Solo, yeah.
Really?
So you can. I think it's pretty easy to watch.
It says it's on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, well, it's on free somewhere else. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, I think you might be able to watch it on the History Channel, or I think either National Geographic or History Channel. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look into it, because I definitely wanted to see it. So,
but yeah, it's definitely worth watching. So that's Free Solo. And then we're going to talk about another documentary which you saw finally, which I've seen.
Leaving Neverland.
No. I inserted. Sorry, I didn't send you. I didn't send you the list with the movies you'd seen.
Oh, okay.
I added, so Three Identical Strangers.
Yes.
So, which is the story of, and I'll let you describe it, because
it's funny because you talked about it last time, and
I think it was on my honorable mentions list.
Yeah, and it's like you really didn't get into it, and it's really interesting to watch, because I expected it to be just a blah, whatever, but it actually had some twists and turns. And it was kind of sad, and it's funny because what was the other one? Capturing the Freedmans is another movie which is already dark from the beginning, but it's like when you watch something and it's about just to get a synopsis, it's about three men who come across each other in their early it was 19, they were 19. And they find out that they were separated at birth, and they're identical triplets, and they find each other.
And the story of that is really interesting.
It's amazing, yeah. And we're not going to write the whole book here unless Jeremy wants to interject with certain things.
That's the one thing I'd like to say, though, is like the trailer has all that, and I think if you'd seen the trailer, there's like some twists and turns that I think are like not as interesting because you've already seen it. So I would say avoid the trailer for it. But,
but it's like. Well, and this is my thing with all documentary, and like they talk to the triplets now, and you notice that within the first 20 minutes they only show two of them, and I already knew, I'm already feeling bad because I'm like, oh my god, I know something bad happened. Either the brother hates them now, or the brother's not here anymore. So it's like things like
there's
that.
There's some tension that comes from that in itself.
And it's I think agreed. It's an amazing story, and then it just dives into this like thriller, a suspense, and I was like, holy cow, Batman! It's like I was so riveted because I know you loved it, and I was like, I guess Jeremy likes a feel good movie every now and then, but then it's like you get into this whole intricacy of this conspiracy and this thing, and I'm like, holy
the movie
shit.
takes a turn towards like crime, almost like a crime thriller.
Crime thriller, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I
don't want to spoil it. Yeah, that's the problem.
I don't want to do any spoilers, but I'll be honest, though. I agree with you. I saw it, and I was like, I didn't see it coming. And then when it did come, I was riveted, and I was angry, and I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe this. And then the worst is, like, even at the end, and again, I'm hoping this is not spoiler territory but, I mean, it's just like you still feel incomplete.
Yep, and so
that's what made me feel angry about it. And I was like, how can this happen in this?
Well, and then you start wondering, like, how many other stories are there?
They hint on it, they touch on it,
and like this was just one thing that happened in regards to the kind of experiment, I suppose.
I mean, they said 26 families or 26 children.
When you start wondering though, it's like that was just one experiment. So you wonder like how many other things,
the other thing is, I don't know if this is spoiling that, but the doctor, the psychiatrist, was German descent, and the triplets were Jewish, and they were from a Jewish the top state. And that was the creepiest thing that bothered me so much. And there's a line that throws in there, one of the brothers say it, and it hit home for me because I'm like, damn, that's like on top of all this, there's that, which is the biggest looming cloud, and it's just so fucking, it's awful, it's horrible, and I can understand why they are the way they are, and they feel the way they feel, because it's like the ultimate F you in the end, which is anyway. I thought Three Identical Strangers was amazing. I thought it was a great documentary.
Yeah, I don't know where you can see it right now because it's
on Hulu.
It is on Hulu.
I saw it on Hulu. Yeah,
cool.
So check it out on Hulu, guys.
Definitely go see that. The other one that I think you should absolutely see is another documentary, Leaving Neverland. Neverland. Yeah. I'm going to say Netherland. I've said that so many times the past 2 weeks. Neverland.
Yeah.
And
what did you say?
I just say Netherland.
Oh,
I put like a TH in there. So if I'm going to say that, and I apologize.
It's the Netherworld.
Which is it's made a huge kind of story.
Overclouded the R. Kelly story. Yeah. This is
which is the story of two grown men that at least claim to have been abused many times by Michael Jackson in great detail, and it's a 4-hour documentary, and the documentary wastes no time in kind of describing the events and describing kind of showing how it impacted these guys. In I think it's an amazing accomplishment, regardless. So the challenge is, I'm curious to see your opinion. Have you seen it yet?
I saw some of it.
It's a long documentary.
It's very long.
So it's almost hard to recommend because it's like if you got 4 hours, it's worth watching. But
it's of something that I don't know, because I know I'm pretty sure you saw it because of just all the controversy. But I mean, I grew up with Michael Jackson. I followed Michael Jackson, and then when this happened, unfortunately, I believe that he did what he did. I believe that he did all these things, and growing up in New York, that's like how do you separate the genius from the man? And Michael Jackson is a musical genius. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's one of the greatest artists in music history, and I love him in that aspect. But then he's a man, and any man has his own faults. And I only mention R. Kelly because this documentary happened because of the R. Kelly stuff last year. And I was telling me and my sister, if you were here, me and my sister had a long argument about it because of 99% of people who are doing it for money, I want money, I want pay. And then there's that 1% who were fighting for justice and never received it because of that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell my sister, I was like, so it's okay for someone to be raped or molested because other people wanted money? You know what I mean? Because if I'm fighting, like I was, my daughter, if I'm fighting for my older daughter and everyone else says, oh yeah, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon too, but give me money for it. So then my justice doesn't come, my justice doesn't matter, and it's sad because these two guys, they're fighting. They just want themselves to be heard to say, listen, I'm not out for the money. I didn't. Well, I think the parents were in some kind of way,
and these are the two. Well, I think I want to say both of them testified for Michael Jackson. At least one of them definitely did. And which is kind of interesting. So
because of money.
And so that's the tricky part, though, is like obviously I think the hard part is there's no legit evidence. This documentary is all speculative to some degree because it doesn't. But at the same time, you start seeing all these photos, like they're describing these events that are happening, and then you see all these like literally like hundreds of photos of him with these kids, and you start going like, there's just like why? Because even if he never did anything sexual, it's just so bizarre, and even if it's hard because it's like you want the devil's advocate in me wants to say like, well, but we don't really know. But
fine.
You watch this and it's heartbreaking, to watch, especially one of the two of them, the one that's not the choreographer. I forgot his name. Just is broken by this, and you can see it in his eyes, and it's undeniable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one thing so I want to compare it to one of the worst documentaries we've described in recent memory, Abducted in Plain Sight.
Yeah.
Because this is essentially the same story.
Yeah.
But this documentary is constructed in a way that it not only does it make sense narratively, like it linear, but which Abducted in Plain Sight doesn't.
Yeah.
But it really. So like I just described, watching this guy describe the events is heartbreaking, and it's like it's because this documentary is so well made, and it's it has a really good kind of sense of purpose, and I feel like it doesn't waste any time. It's shot really well. It's obvious it's an HBO documentary, but so it's no surprise. But I don't know, like
listen. You believe You believe he believes what he's saying.
I believe
100%. And with that
regardless
alone,
of evidence.
Exactly. And I believe it happened. I'm sorry. Even if it's just one dude, one is all you need. Like they say, one is all you need. Like my man Tenacious D, they say it all the time. One is all you need. And even if he didn't molest all these zillion of children, he did with this dude. And that's
and one of them describes, he's like the fact of the matter is like part of the reason that it took me this long to come to, this place in my life where I wanted to talk about this is the fact that for the longest time, I didn't feel like he did anything to hurt me. I didn't feel hurt by this until I realized how it changed and how it changed me.
Children.
And it's there's something. So anyway, what I love about this documentary, just talking about the actual filmmaking itself, is that we get throughout this, and this is what Abducted in Plain Sight just completely fumbles, is the psychology of the characters, not the characters, but these people throughout, like while they're describing these events, not only are they describing kind of how exciting, like being able to, like Michael Jackson was my hero, but then they dive into how fucked up, like each individual piece of this whole puzzle, and it's, I don't know. I admire the fact that the documentary is willing to not pull any punches.
Correct. Yeah, that's what a documentary should be.
But even towards like the parents of the kids, which is what again, Abducted in Plain Sight. You're sitting there going like, how do you sit back and allow like not ask these? It's kind of like good journalism to some degree. Like how do you not ask the questions and try and get some kind of understanding? Like I feel like Abducted in Plain Sight never kind of looks for meaning in any of it. It just kind of sits as a fly in the wall, whereas this is really breaking down kind of the impact that it had on these kids, as well as the impact it had on their relationships with their future wives and now their children, and it's
exactly.
And that's an incredible accomplishment in itself, regardless of where you stand on whether or not this happened. It's an amazing documentary, and I think it's one of the best things I've seen all year. So that's my review of it. But
I just want to throw in a second because you something about the parents, and we talked about this with Abducted in Plain Sight. I showed Rhonda Prisoners. She never saw it, and I showed her Gone Baby Gone.
Prisoners is so fucking good.
It's an amazing movie, and I'm like,
Gone Baby Gone's great too.
Gone Baby Gone's a great
Casey
film.
Affleck,
and this is like all leading to this because it's like She haven't seen, she's never saw it, and her reactions were what a good parent should react, because in Prisoners, I mean, not that the parents were at fault per se. I mean, Hugh Jackman.
Well, that's hard,
But it's like you have to react like like be angry, because it's like same thing with Gone Baby Again. You're angry at this mother, it's like that's a good parent for someone to say, oh, like you said, I'm not going to question this. I mean, how? As a parent, how do you not?
And that's what, so there's, they even interview one of the brothers of the Australian family, which I think is the choreographer, I believe. I don't remember. I saw this a couple weeks ago. But he has like some really harsh feelings towards his mom as far as like just the decisions she made throughout this whole process. And that's so morally tricky. Like, I don't know. It's like, how can you not forgive your own mother, so that
I would never.
That's where this documentary goes, and it's compelling from start to finish. It's frustrating, but also moving and sad, and it does everything that a good documentary should. And I think it's a spectacle, not a spectacle. I don't know what you call it. It's a masterpiece.
A spectacle's fine,
but go see it.
Yeah,
or see it on HBO.
It's on HBO, so you got no excuse.
The next film on our list is Border, which is I'm trying to think what country this was filmed in. Sweden and Denmark. They're speaking Swedish. So anyway, it's a story. It's a really, how do I describe this movie? So it's the main character is a customs officer. Who we discover can smell fear.
Interesting. I know. I saw that
on people, right? And so as people come through what looks like an airport, but I think it's a shipping channel. I want to say that where they're importing and exporting some kind of, I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not an airport, but it looks like a customs, screening at an airport, and she stops people because she senses something's off about them. And she has, for the longest time, has thought that she looks different from everyone else for some reason. That she thought that she was ugly, but she finds out because of running into this stranger at this place where she works, that she may not be alone in looking the way she looks, and there may be a reason for that. And this strange man kind of, it comes through where she works several times, and there's a point where she stops him because she senses something off about him, and they begin to have a relationship, and you discover that there might be more to. So it's hard to describe because the movie's not really clear. Well, she may be some kind of troll, I think is what it's described as. So I don't even. So this movie's
they look like prehistoric, like cavemen, like they have this
almost
Cro-Magnon type look to them,
And so he kind of he seems a lot more aware of what he is than she is. And so this movie's to some degree kind of her coming into her own and kind of discovering and being, confident in who she is and what she is.
Romance.
Well, and that's the best way to describe it because it borders on, it literally borders on fantasy and comedy and horror, and it blends the three of these in a way that's really unique. I wish I'd seen this on the big screen because there's some really touching, beautiful moments. I just saw it on. I rented it on.
You rented it,
and I don't know. I felt a little. So, and we'll talk about another. Well, we'll talk about Swiss Army Man now because I think it's a perfect comparison.
Okay, interesting.
They're different films, but the tone is the fantasy tone of both of them. So the challenge that I have with movies like this is I often feel detached from it because it's kind of an elevated from reality. And so I have a hard time connecting with, especially when a character literally physically doesn't look like a person. Like it's, I don't know.
For Border, but so I'm trying to. You're comparing with Swiss Army Man. So I'm trying to get
when the material feels fantastical, right? And it doesn't feel grounded to some degree, grounded in reality.
I can understand. Okay.
There's a level of for me at least, where I'm almost like I'm more watching it more objectively. Swiss Army Man it shifts into more of a personal story.
No, I love the ending of Swiss Army Man. Yeah.
But at the same time, like all of the fantasy stuff is.
I understand. Daniel Radcliffe's.
It doesn't take me out of it because I appreciate it and I get it, but I just I feel like I'm watching at a distance.
Yeah.
So I feel the same way about Border. It's not. I think it's really interesting, and there's some. The performances are great, and it's just a really unique, original film, and I'm glad that it exists. I think it has like a 97%. Some people, it was like the number one on a lot of people's lists. I'm trying to get
Rhonda to watch with me because it's a romance. You might like that.
Well, and it is. There's a sex scene in this movie that is so odd. And it's worth watching the whole film just for that scene. So it's got some really great stuff going on, and it's a very unique film, and I enjoy what it's doing. Yeah. But I do feel a little detached from it, and I don't know that I fault the movie for that, but that's just the way I feel about it. Same thing. So I guess we'll talk about Swiss Army Man, which I finally saw shortly after.
Yeah, I saw that like 2 years. It was really I love Swiss Army
Man. And it's so, I just I can't believe that Swiss Army Man exists.
What? Why?
Well, so like, it just not only is it just such an. I mean, just the farting alone. For those of you that don't know, Swiss Army Man, if you haven't seen it or seen a trailer or anything about it, it's a film starring Paul Dano, who appears to be stranded on some kind of island or remote place. And he's very lonely, and some of the opening shots, they show things like, I'm so bored, which is hilarious. Like written on a quart of milk, or like a gallon of water, like a plastic jug. And so we discover very quickly that he's lonely and that he doesn't want to live, and he goes to hang himself, and all of a sudden the body of Daniel Radcliffe
Harry Potter.
Washes up onto the shore, and he, for the first time in a long time, it appears, is no longer alone. And so the movie kind of deals with, it's definitely, like we described, a fantasy film about a man to some degree becoming best friends. And not falling in love, but it's almost that with a dead body.
It's like a surreal version of Castaway.
It is, yeah. And so it has like all those really interesting kind of character stuff, like just the loneliness and all that is interesting. And Paul Dano, I mean, they are both fantastic in this.
Yeah,
but it's just so odd, and it's not really like the movie knows it embraces that. Like even he uses Daniel Radcliffe's body to cut wood and shave, and he shaves with his teeth and stuff. So there's some really funny kind of unique elements to it. But I just feel like I feel a little detached from it because it's so. Like the farting and
but then the payoff at the end, then you understand.
Love the ending.
Then you understand. It puts everything into perspective at the end,
and it's beautiful. It's
because I agreed with you. I was like, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, is this like surreal for surreal's sake? I was like, almost like a Monty Python type sketch,
Yeah, almost.
But I was enjoying it, and then at the end, everything comes in perspective. You're like, oh shit, okay, that makes sense, But yeah, I loved it too. Paul Dano's I just told you we watched Prisoners last night.
Oh yeah,
he's in the movie small amount, but he's amazing in it too.
I'll never forget that shot because that's shot by Roger Deakins, and it's just that movie's amazing. But it's beautiful. But there's that shot in the woods where the camper that he drove and he parks it right outside the woods.
Yeah.
And I think it's I forget what. I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Jake Gyllenhaal is the cop coming up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the headlights of the RV are on, and he's standing in the woods, and he just turns around. He's wearing these glasses. I'll never forget the imagery of that. It's just.
It's funny because Rhonda was like, oh, she liked that scene, and it's a great, and it's like
gives me chills thinking about it.
And it didn't affect me until the second viewing because that was the second time I watched it last night, and I was like, oh shit, that's awesome. I didn't catch the first time, but the second time. But yeah, look, I'm getting chills. It's a great shot. Yeah,
Prisoners is.
Prisoners is a great film.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
But yes, that's Border and Swiss Army Man for that matter.
We jumped.
Yeah, we jumped the list here.
Let's just get to Triple Frontier because that's.
Well, I threw in For Your Consideration because you said that you watched that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you saw it, right? Yeah.
I have not seen it. So tell me what it's about.
Oh, okay. So, For Your Consideration is, I think, the last film that the Christopher Guest did with his little ensemble. Waiting for Guffman was the first film, which is an amazing movie. I should say mockumentaries. You've seen Waiting for Guffman, right?
No, I haven't seen anything.
You haven't seen Mighty Wind?
No.
Holy
Christopher
cow.
Guest is not something.
Best in Show? Oh my gosh.
Nope.
You better go. That's your homework tonight. But I think it's the last one. I want to go just to be sure because I never saw it.
I have seen This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh yes, but that wasn't Christopher Guest. But yes, I think Christopher Guest. I think since you said that, I think he was that's such a great film. He was more inclined to do mockumentaries like that. Hold on, Christopher Guest. So let me see if this was.
He did Mascots. I have seen. Well,
Mascots. Yeah, Mascots was not my. But then again, Mascots falls into.
He's a director, but he's also an actor.
Oh, actually, For Your Consideration was 2006, and Mascots was the last. Okay, I didn't like Mascots, so that makes sense.
I thought it was interesting. Well, he did direct that.
Yeah. So Mighty Wind, I think, was his last great film. For Your Consideration is really good. Basically, so here I'll get to it. So basically, it's a film within a film. They're shooting a Jewish drama around the holiday of Purim, and it's a drama. Oh my God, Catherine O'Hara is the mother character. What's your name? Oh my God, the name is right here in front of me. Why don't I look? Then what's his name? Harry Shearer's the father character. Parker Posey's the daughter. Where's the son? Because he's my favorite in the movie. Christopher Moynihan is the son. So they're filming this movie, and one day, Catherine O'Hara's character is a very, she's an older woman, but she's still neurotic, and she's waiting for her next big break. This movie is a big film, but it's just an indie drama. And some guy just comes up to her. He's a craft services, and he says, "Oh, I was on the internet. I heard that they're looking to nominate you for this film." For whatever reason, I guess to be nice because it was an awkward meet. But it's like the power of the internet, also the power of hearsay. So she starts telling one person, and that person's like, "Yeah, I think I saw that." And she tells her publicist, John Michael Higgins, who's amazing. And he's like, "Oh, well, what?" Like, he didn't know what the internet is. This is back in 2006. But he goes, "The internet's the one with the email, right?" And it's like, it just builds and builds until on this, like, and then there's a little Entertainment Tonight type show that they keep showing like every like 10, 15 minutes. And it blows up to this big thing where it ends up all these actors are nominated for this film, but it's just a build up to all this, the director, Christopher Guest plays the director. He's just really funny. He's very Jewish. Eugene Levy is like the asshole agent to Harry Shearer's character. And it's just, they get, they start getting more famous, more popular, and it's this big thing. And Parker Posey and Christopher Moynihan, who are brother and sister in the film, but in real life are lovers. It's like, he's, it's this kind of thing like, they're changing because of this nomination. And, they're like becoming very, I'm going to, and he's just like, "Oh, this is so stupid. And it's just, I won't give away anything else, but it's in Christopher Guest's mold. There's a mockumentary about this making of a film, and you have all this like little comedy, a lot of Jewish comedy. And it's just, it has a great payoff at the ending. But it's like, it's not his greatest film, Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, Mighty Wind. Those are the heavy hitters. But this one's a little bit, that's why this one wasn't that famous. This one, I came out 13 years ago. I didn't even know about it till like a year ago. And I finally watched it, and it's just really good. And I'm surprised you've never seen Christopher Guest mockumentary. You should definitely see it, since I know you love This Is Spinal Tap.
I do love.
And
that
Mascots,
movie.
you said you saw, and Mascots was my least favorite.
I didn't love that. I just
but that's what I'm saying. The Mascots was my
interesting.
least favorite, so I see how
because it was kind of an adult comedy.
Yeah. But you gotta see.
You
should start off with Waiting for Guffman, then watch Best in Show, and then watch Mighty Wind. And I think you'll see the progression of how great he once was. I don't mean to diss him, but those were very great films. Whereas For Your Consideration was good, but again, you have to be from New York because it's very Jewish. But it's just that buildup of Oscar buzz, and being watching it right after the Oscars, I thought it was very good. And then, like I said, the ending has this great payoff. But yeah, I just enjoyed it. It's not as bad as his best, but it was better than Mascots, because I really didn't like Mascots that much. I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. So But yeah, that's for your consideration.
For your consideration.
So you should but check out his other films. I'm glad I brought this up because I thought you may have seen those other films, but definitely see Waiting for Guffman first, and then go into Best in Show, which I think critics love that one the most, and then Mighty Wind, which is a really amazing look at the music from the 60s and stuff into the 70s and stuff. So that was really good. But anyway, what's next?
Next is the Netflix film, which we briefly talked about earlier, Triple Frontier.
Let's get to that.
Which is J.C. Chandor, and actually I've got at least one of his movies on our list to talk about today as well, which we can kind of talk about side by side. But Margin Call. So he's director of Margin Call, and which I now have seen, and The Most Violent Year, starring Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain, which is I think one of the best films of the 21st century. Maybe I love that movie. I think it's like a masterclass in acting and just directing. It's just I don't know. I think it's great. Anyway, so
there it goes. Okay,
he's got a new movie on Netflix called Triple Frontier, starring Oscar Isaac, Ben Affleck, Charlie Hunnam. Who else? Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam. And the lesser actors, which let me see what that guy's name is. The Spanish guy. Barrett Hedlund is and then Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, which is just
Pedro Pascal.
I mean, an amazing cast.
Yeah,
right.
I'll definitely say that this cast is
and they're all good.
Unbelievable.
Everybody's good.
No. I'm not going to give that. I'm not going to take that away from him. That was really good. Yeah.
And it's the story of they're all kind of ex-military guys, at least other than Oscar Isaac, who's definitely still kind of working
he's still in it. He's still in the life,
in kind of a DA style role in some kind of he's in Mexico.
Yeah,
in the beginning.
In Mexico. He's in Mexico.
Yeah, and everybody else is still wherever they're at in the States, kind of post-military service, and kind of just they're all kind of trying to make sense of life as a civilian to some degree, and which is kind of that's been done before. And Oscar Isaac comes to all of them with kind of one last job. There's a millionaire living kind of drug lord, cartel boss, Larea, living in the woods, and Oscar Isaac wants to rob him because he knows that Larea keeps all his cash in this house, and so he recruits the team of guys that he's worked with in the military before, and they attempt to rob Larea. So that's the premise.
And to take him out of power. Sure. $76 million and to get rid of him because he's destroying this town.
Yeah. Which is lesser the reason I feel like most of them do it for the money.
No,
but Oscar Isaac definitely doesn't like Larea.
Like he's the most personal, and then Batman is like the worst of all. But yeah, well, I don't know if you want to go first. I can.
So this movie is kind of a mixed bag, I think, overall.
Agreed.
But there's a lot of good in it. In fact, I think for most of it, I was just impressed by the technical achievement of it, which is these actions. So this is a film though that you could do shaky cam style on the cheap, right? Yeah. But this is really, it's shot really well. I mean, all the action sequences are really slick and just when they rob Larea's house. It's raining and I don't know. It's beautiful to look at, and I wish I had seen it on the big screen because I think scenes like that would have really just jumped off the screen, and they do at home even. Yeah. And so shout out to the guy who I think he did End of Watch, the cinematographer.
Oh, the cinematographer.
Yeah. Which I mean, that's kind of an example of like the opposite style, which is kind of shaky cam, but not. That's I think an interesting movie, and that style works for that film, but. This is just a
Suicide
slick,
Squad too.
Yeah, which is not a great looking movie, but but it's I don't know.
He did Bright. Interesting.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, you might not like it, but I like Bright.
But yeah, anyway, so I mean, it's just a really it looks like a Most Violent Year, like it's like a big budget action film with an all-star cast. But it's shot like an indie drama. Almost.
You're not saying Most Violent Year is an action film, though, right?
No. I was saying just the way it's shot. It's just really. I mean, the cinematography is amazing, and I know that's just I don't know.
It is. I'll give you that. That was good. That was good.
It reminds me of there's moments in the mountains and stuff that remind me of Scorsese's the one with Andrew Garfield and
Silence.
Yeah. That movie. was like that. Like I know that was a more difficult film to accomplish, but there's moments in this. And it's called Triple Frontier because they there's like multiple different locations that they have to traverse to get this money home, and so there's just I don't know. There's moments like that are I really appreciate. The performances are all very good. It's a well directed movie. I think it moves along with a pretty quick pace. The problem for me is that the height of the film is the heist, and everything afterwards feels like an afterthought. And it's not that this stuff is bad. It's just I don't know. I feel like in this traditional story in that it's something.
My summation is similar but worse. But yeah,
the heist is usually like the biggest part of it.
Yeah,
and I thought that's where this movie was headed. I think I saw one trailer, but I turned it off midway through. But I think the heist. It's just hard to kind of. I think it peaks there, and it's hard for the movie to ever kind of get back to that place for me.
Well, my summation, and I'll be honest, is almost like. Oh my God, with The Apostle, where I started last night and I finished watching to get my homework done for today's episode. And I was telling Rhonda, this movie, everything you said is right. The cinematography, now that you say it is very good. And the actors are amazing. I mean, even the Garrett Enlund, who I've never heard of before, is really good in the movie.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
I know you said that, but I've never seen him. And here, everybody, I'm not a big action guy.
He was in Lost City of Z, right? Is that him?
Tron, Legacy, Mud.
Yeah. Wait.
No, Lost City of Z, really?
No, is that?
No.
That might be Hunnam.
That's Hunnam, who's in Lost City of Z.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I have no problem
Hedlund.
with Hunnam. I know. Charlie
Hedlund is the lead in Tron, right?
Yeah.
He was also in Mudbound, which I haven't seen, but I heard
I
it's
haven't
very
seen
good.
Mudbound either, which I feel bad because I was nominated.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, what I told Rhonda was, if it wasn't for the actors, this would have been a generic action
certainly.
film that you see on Netflix and
Well,
and
director and actors, I would agree.
Agreed, but I'm just saying the whole point was that watching the movie, and again, I realized at the age of 47, I'm not much into action anymore. But agreed that
Unless
heist,
it has to.
the
like,
heist
have
in the
some
beginning
kind
is amazing. I give you that, and then you're right; it's all down the hill from there because there's not much to do but story. But again, I said to her, I was like, this could have been, Z actors like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. That there's nothing special about it.
It barely has an ending.
Yeah, and the ending's and a disappointing ending too. I didn't like the ending. I think there's a little glimpse of hope at the end. With the little paper that he's given, that Charlie Hunnam gives Oscar Isaac. But other than that, it was okay. I mean, and this is getting back to the beginning, almost a full circle in this video. Though we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. It's like. This is where they said, I don't know what to do with this film. And then Netflix said, I'll buy it. And they were like, I'll buy that for $1. And they said, yeah, here you go. And they put it on Netflix. And I think that's what happened with this movie. I think that you're right. J.C. Chandler was like, what? When are you going to release my movie? And then they were like, and then Netflix says, I'll take it. And they were like, yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's just so odd though because it's got such a great cast.
It's an amazing cast.
But
Netflix has
there's
great
sequences
actors.
where like I feel like are like. For instance, the sequence towards the end where they're in a Humvee or like some kind of Jeep, and they're riding along the coast and being chased.
That is the end. Yeah.
And it's like this massive, spectacular action film, and I don't care at all.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird thing. Like it's just, especially with the actors that are in it. Because I love Oscar Isaac, and I love.
He is. He's a great actor,
and he's really good, and he's trying very hard. But I don't care, and I don't know. That's the problem. So I don't know. It's for a Netflix release. I would say. I mean, there's been so much bullshit that Netflix has released. I think it's probably one of the best made films they've released.
Yeah,
Other than, I haven't seen Mudbound. There's a few.
Mudbound we should see because I was nominated 2 years ago and I still haven't seen, but it's in my queue.
And so, like, I like that Netflix is. I mean, I don't know that I would have gone to the theater to see this.
No, absolutely.
But for a subscription service where I'm paying monthly, movies like this, I feel like they're continuing to provide value, and I appreciate that.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
So
Margin Call because I saw.
Oh yeah, so I want to talk
Kevin
about
Spacey's in it,
dude. So I watched Margin Call right after watching Triple
That's
Frontier.
his first film.
That is his, I believe
Yeah,
so.
because I just checked. That was his first.
At least his first feature for sure.
Yeah, he did shorts,
and he went on to do All Is Lost.
Yeah.
Which I mean he's been.
I gotta see that then because that's a Robert Redford movie.
Yeah, I know.
Gets lost at sea.
I've seen most of it. I don't think I finished it. I was not in the mood to watch that when I watched it.
Tell you that.
But it's not because it's bad. It's very good. What I've
I
seen.
like My Violent Year. I did like that. Most Violent Year. I'm sorry. I like that movie.
That movie gets better every time I see it. I think it's just.
I gotta watch it again.
It's just a slick thriller with like, I genuinely think like Oscar Isaac in his performance in Most Violent Year is like Al Pacino good. Like I think he's that good.
I give you that. He's great in the movie.
Like and Jessica Chastain, they're just both.
And I
both
love
of them
Jessica
are
Chastain.
so.
I don't know why I love her.
It's a directing clinic. It's like just the movie and an acting clinic. I mean, they're just everybody's so good in that movie. I don't know. And I love that film. That was the movie that kind of introduced me to him. And I heard about Margin Call, but I'd never seen it, which is essentially.
And is that on Netflix too? Or no?
I think it's probably because I have Xfinity, and Xfinity, if you have like HBO and Showtime and any of those things, they compile them all together, and you can browse a list of all of those premium channels and all the movies they have all in one place. So I never know where I'm watching it. Is my point.
Okay.
So I don't know. It was probably on one of the HBO or something.
Okay, it was one of those. But not
I didn't
Netflix.
pay for it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I know. I got you.
But it's essentially the story of it's a fictional story about a investment company that and this is my dummy understanding of it because I don't know anything about investment and Wall Street and all that stuff. Yeah. But they essentially, most of the investments that they make are in mortgages, and they, at least from my understanding, take these mortgages, so they'll buy like a ton of them, like say 1,000 mortgages, and they package them together and they sell them as a bundle. Is essentially my understanding. The problem with this is it takes a certain amount of time for them to turn around and sell it, so they can't just flip it immediately. Yeah. And so if it decreases in value over that time, they can really lose. But it's been profitable up until the 2008 housing crisis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So this is set like the day before the main crash. And basically what they find out is that if they don't, so these assets that they purchased, these mortgages, when the market crashes, which they're seeing signs of, the assets that they have that are tied up in mortgages would become valueless. And so they basically make the decision to sell all of their assets in a single day, putting many out of business in order to save themselves. And it's a fascinating, if you like business or economics or any, and I run a business, a small business, but I love money and just like I love
money.
Math, all these really fun, exciting things.
Math rock.
But there's moments. This is a movie with a bunch of people talking, and a bunch of great actors talking, sitting around talking.
Zachary Quinto, Kevin Spacey, Stanley Tucci,
Paul Bettany is fucking awesome in this movie. Stanley Tucci is so good
Jeremy
too.
Irons,
it's just
Simon
just
Pegg,
a great cast.
Mary McDonald, Debbie Moore,
and everybody is amazing in it. Right? Yeah. It's just so well directed, and the script is really good. But it's one of those this kind of single room thrillers where it's just a bunch of people sitting around talking, but it's completely engaging. And it just totally works. But it's about economics. It's just it's about the most boring subject, which is why this it did really well critically, but not incredibly well financially. But it's a really impressive feature from him. So I don't know. I loved that, and that led me to 99 Homes, which is came out in 2011, I believe, which was kind of the tail end of the recession. Yeah. And it's about the same subject, so that's part of the reason I watched it. I was gonna go watch The Big Short again because I was in a mood to learn more about through movies about the housing crash. And so 99 Homes though, which was free, that's why I watched this instead of Big Short, is about Andrew Garfield and Laura Dern live together. He has Andrew Garfield has a son. Laura Dern is his mother, and they live in kind of the house that they've lived in forever. Yeah. And they get evicted by a greedy kind of businessman played by Michael Shannon. And he's like a I think it's set in Florida, but he walks around in white suits, and he's just kind of an asshole. Not kind of an asshole, he's definitely an asshole. And so he evicts them from their home, and Andrew Garfield ends up having to, because he's looking for money. They move into a hotel, and Andrew Garfield goes and starts working for Michael Shannon in order to pay back the debt he owes against his home and hopefully get his home back. And so what's interesting about it is it's told, because Michael Shannon is essentially like a broker that works for the banks. And so he is essentially profiting off of evicting people. And which is morally just a disaster. So Andrew Garfield kind of is discovering, I don't know, they'll uninstall air conditioning units out of homes and then invoice the government or the banks for those missing items, and then flip the home, and it's like, and then they'd reinstall the items in another home. So it's like they're like stealing from the banks, and so there's these interesting kind of moral, like it's like a moral battle zone. This movie, and Andrew Garfield kind of gets pushed into it, head first, and it's shot like a documentary. And it feels very real. There's moments where, you see just kind of the pain of these people being evicted, and just it's horrifying at times. And it's really compelling from start to finish. And I think the end of it feels a little contrived, especially for a film that's like I described, shot like a documentary. It's very grounded. There's some scenes at the end that kind of, it's like, we have to have him, make the right decision, and so like they set up some things in the plot for that to happen. So that's a little contrived, but ultimately it's really impressive, and I think more people should see it. It did really well critically. I think it got like a 95%.
It's on Amazon Prime. I'll put it in my queue tonight.
That's where I watched it. Yeah. So anyway, and then the one I want to throw in, because it is the Killing Joke. That's the one you sent me.
That's right. Yeah.
You saw that. I haven't seen that. I don't know anything about it.
I
didn't even know the title. Is it Batman the Killing Joke? Okay, I got the right one.
Yeah. Based on an amazing graphic novel written by Alan Moore and drawn by Brian Boland. Sorry. It's one of the greatest comic books. If you go to greatest graphic novels, that would be like number 3 or 4. I got it for during the Black Friday sale like 2 or 3 years ago, and I wanted to watch. I was like, I've been sitting there to watch it with JC, but then I said, you know what, this is not a good movie for JC to watch. Basically, it's like a definitive Joker tale, or Batman is in it, but he's actually a supporting character. And the movie's a little different, takes a little bit of liberties with the book, which is why Alan Moore hates film and television. But basically, the gist is Batgirl is, frustrated that Batman keeps her, pushes her back and holds her back because, he feels like this is too dangerous, that kind of thing. In the beginning, she almost gets killed with some just like low rent gangster, and so she kind of gets annoyed at all this, and she ends up almost coming to death, but ends up saving Batman in the long run. But chills for a bit, goes home, and the Joker comes into play, and the Joker wants to teach Commissioner Gordon, but as well Batman, a lesson by seeing or giving Commissioner Gordon the fact that pushing anyone can make them as crazy as the Joker. I don't know if I should give spoilers. The book has been out for over 30 years, and the movie's been out for about a good 3. But basically, why I wouldn't let JC. Well, in the end, I said, let me just watch it on my own because JC should watch it. The Joker does something really bad to Batgirl, and one of the things to push Commissioner Gordon over the edge, and in the end, how it affects Batman, and it's just a really good story. I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to give out spoilers. It means something 30 years old, but it's a great story. The comic book ends, I think, a little darker and a little bit more ominous, whereas the movie, I think, tried to do the same. But it's just a really, it's like I said, I would say read the graphic novel first, and that would get you into reading graphic novels, reading Alan Moore, reading Batman. But the movie was okay. I mean, I heard a lot about it being that, it can't be like the book. It can't be nothing like the book because it's so dark and so wrong. And they come close. Like I said, the actual scene itself is dark, but it's not as like in the comic book. But later on, There's a funhouse scene where Commissioner Gordon's going on a ride, and the Joker has screens, images of what he did, and they actually do something like real quick. Like you see these things, I'm like, holy shit, they show that. But it's just amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if you're into any of the DC animated films or any things, and I know you're not a comic book guy.
I think I've only seen one. And I don't even remember which one it was.
But yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, I would recommend watching it just to give you the taste of, you know what, let me read the book, because I'm pretty sure the book is better than the cartoon. But yeah, it's very dark. And just real quick, because I know we got a couple other films and it's getting late. But DC just created a title called Black Label, which they're like R-rated, sometimes X-rated comic books with major characters. So like the big controversy was that Batman the Damned #1, you see Batman's penis, like he's there naked. And the story is not even that good, because the issue 2, they overbought because they're still sitting on shelves. It's because the first one sold out, and Black Label doesn't do reprints, so now everyone has to wait till the collected volume. But yeah, I think DC's animation's coming up a long way from the first animated DC movies to now. They're getting darker. There's a lot of sex, a lot of violence, a lot of murder. So that's why I think they're starting to adapt these darker
That's what the people want.
Yeah, but yeah, just I would recommend to see the film or the animated film of Killing Joke, and then go out and get the graphic novel to see where it should have went, or how it could have been better. But that's that. And what's the next movie?
The Breaker Uppers, which is a Netflix release.
Netflix original.
Executive produced by Taika
Waititi.
Taika
Waititi, isn't it?
I love him, but I should know
he's amazing.
his name.
I know. He's the director
Or how to pronounce it,
of
at least.
Children of the Wildebeest, Thor Ragnarok, We're in the Shadows, which is one of my favorite.
All the names wrong.
Am I? What am I saying?
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Boy, Thor Ragnarok, What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah. I think What We Do in the Shadows is probably my favorite, but I do love Hunt for the Wilder People and Thor Ragnarok. So, but he just executive produced this, and the only reason I bring him up is because tonally it's very similar.
The same. Yeah.
It's a New Zealand film, written and directed by the two leads, and they also star in it Madeline Sammy and or Madeline, and then Jackie Van Beek, who was in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
In a small role. She's like the person that goes and acquires people for them to eat, and she like starts bringing in all of her classmates that she hates from high school. Yeah. So she's funny in that, and she's very, very funny in this. I think it's the story of these two women that run a business where they essentially end people's relationships for them in really stupid ways. And like running up to him while they're jogging, and she's got like a fake pregnant belly, and she's like, "We need to talk about Jared." So there's this great montage at the open, and I think it starts off like 10 out of 10 for me, which is just this really silly montage of all the ways that they like break people up, and it's a really stupid, silly premise, but it's really fun. This movie, I don't know what you think about it, but because ultimately when you review a comedy, it's just whether or not it made you laugh. I feel like,
yeah, no, it's funny,
and I laughed all the way through.
Yeah, it was cute. The only thing I didn't like, and again, I guess this is an Australian film, that Mel's character is in her 30s, and then she ends up sleeping with this 17-year-old boy. I mean, that was the only thing that threw me off. I was kind of like, is this really happening? But they went with it, and she gets pregnant and everything. Oh my god!
I love when they're in the grocery store, and she's like he's 18 now, and she's like, oh, legal. Like, all right. It's just I think it's for me it was laugh out loud funny in that dry kind of Australian way. Same thing with like the Taika's stuff, where they love making you feel really uncomfortable, like the scene in the police station where they end up stripping which is just they set up this really silly scenario, but I think it's fun to see because the two leads they wrote and directed it, and I feel like they come at this with such confidence that it feels so fresh. It reminds me of Broad City in the sense that like you've got just these two female leads that are so enthusiastic and fun to watch that it's hard to not enjoy the ride. So I think this is probably my favorite film I've seen this year. It's just silly as that is.
It's funny because I gave Rhonda's Rhonda supports this show 100%, and she goes, "Oh, well, what does Jeremy want you to watch?" And I said, "Well, Triple Frontier and the Breaker Uppers. So she said, well, let me see what they're about. I'll see what. And she actually wanted to see Triple Frontier because she likes boys. But I said, well, I think Breaker Uppers is more your speed.
Dudes.
And she loved the Breaker Uppers. And we were laughing out loud. And it's funny because I think she would have hated Triple Frontier. So I'm glad we picked the Breaker. Oh, I picked it for her because she wanted to see Triple Frontier.
There's just so many great moments. Like silly. I've seen it twice now. And
what's his name? The girlfriend is amazing too. The young kid, Jordan's girlfriend.
She's got such a weird accent.
Yeah, that Maori accent. Oh my God, it's so amazing. And it's funny because it made me think of Once Were Warriors, which is such a dark film. But I was just like, I want to see that again because I love their accents, But yeah,
it just it takes a shot at the ridiculous, and I think it succeeds.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. I'm sure some people will be like, the story is
how would they not like it? I mean, I'll smack a person.
I don't know. I had a really good time, and so the other movie on the list is Spy, which is another film that I watched right after this because we were looking for another comedy, and okay. I've seen it twice now.
Yeah,
I think this movie, and I know that it was rated really well. It got like 97% of critics loved it or something. Like it did really well critically. But I just think this movie is so underrated. Like people don't talk about Spy.
I like Spy.
I think and I am, which is, I don't know. I've changed my perspective on comedy. I used to be really snobby about especially like broad comedies, movies like Game Night or that's a good movie, but Horrible Bosses, even like I don't know. I don't know. I've always been like really like just like they're not high cinema to some degree, and I feel like I just am. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the times. Like these kind of silly comedies just work for me now. Spy is a brilliant movie, though. I think it's like really well written. It's very mean and freaking Rose Byrne. And the only reason I have this on our list to talk about today is because of Rose Byrne. Like she just is chewing the scenery in this movie. Like there's that line where Melissa McCarthy on the plane and Melissa McCarthy is like doing this awkward toast because she doesn't know what to say about. He's like, to your mother and whatever. And then Rose Byrne says, what a stupid fucking retarded toast. I was like, that's the greatest line.
Yeah, I love it.
That's the greatest line of the 21st century. So I just, and then Jason Statham is so
He's
great.
good in it. Yeah, dig him in it.
I think I once saw a woman I loved fall from a plane and then get hit by another plane. Everybody's having so much fun, and it's Paul Feig
He's amazing. I love Bridesmaid
with a simple favor.
I just
can't. And I need to go back and watch everything he's done, but because A Simple Favor is fantastic. That was on my top 10 list last year.
Yeah,
Spy would have been on my top 10 list had I watched it and been in the same space. I don't know. I had. This arm once fell completely off and then was reattached with this fucking arm. Jason Statham, I don't know, man. That movie's so funny and it's so clever and weird and just it's a complete delight. And
I'm looking at his guess. So Bridesmaid was his first theatrical film, and then The Heat, which I loved, and then Spy, I loved. And I don't know what would you think of Ghostbusters?
I haven't seen that Ghostbusters.
Never seen that? No. And I like Ghostbusters a lot. I don't love it. And Simple Favor is the only movie I haven't seen, which I got to see now.
You haven't seen Simple Favor yet? I love that movie.
It is for rent.
I've seen that like 6 times.
Yeah, I know you love that movie.
I don't know. Anyway,
I love Paul Feig.
I think
Freaks and Geeks.
There's just a meanness to his movies that I find so funny because like Melissa McCarthy's character in Spy just gets made fun of the whole time, and it's just hilarious. I don't know. It's great. Yeah. It's so great. Anyway, I just want to briefly go through that, and then to leave some room for Annihilation, which
it's 11:34, guys.
Annihilation is Have I reviewed this? I know.
We did. Yeah.
Oh, it was in my top 10 list.
Top 10 list.
It was like 7th or something. Yeah, which I every time I do a top 10 list, obviously it's indicative of like what you thought at the time. I've seen this movie several times since then, and I think it gets better every time I see it.
Well, maybe I'll watch it again.
I guess since this is kind of the official review, because I don't know if we did a full review.
No, we did.
I guess we'll talk about just the plot of it. Yeah. A lighthouse gets struck by something, and off the coast somewhere, and this bubble starts forming around it, and it starts kind of devouring nearby towns and cities. And the wife of Oscar Isaac, played by Natalie Portman, goes in with a team of 4 scientists. I think there's 4 of them. They go in 4, 5, I don't know.
5.
They go into the Shimmer to try and discover what it's all
I like
about.
that name, actually. The Shimmer.
And it's a sci-fi horror film, and I've already shared my thoughts on it. So what do you think? Why do you hate this movie?
And again, you're saying hate. I didn't say hate. Let me see.
It's directed by
1, 2, 3.
Alex Garland.
Alex Garland, who did some of my favorite
He
films.
wrote 28 Days Later, Sunshine, and then he directed Ex
It
Machina.
is 5 if you count. But anyway, so here's my thing. I mean, I don't know if we do. I'm not sure if we're doing spoilers, but why do you say
Let's
it
do
gets
spoilers
hit
for
by
this
something?
because it's the last
It's
thing.
hit by something from space.
It's the last thing on our list.
Yeah, it is an alien film in the aspect of it's outer space. I'm not gonna lie, it is beautiful. I know you talked about how beautiful it was during your quick review, and it is. It's very beautiful. The cinematography is amazing. The actresses, I love them all. I'll be honest though, were they really fleshed out? Not really. I mean, Tessa Thompson, who's the next to last of the crew.
Her motivation's a little
And it gets very zen-like, and then that's it. She disappears, and you assume bad stuff. I'll be honest.
Well, I think she. Well, my understanding from her character is that she, to some degree, embraces the mutation.
Yes. Okay, but in this like kind of culty type thing that she comes to, like she ends up going into this thing as a religion or something.
Well, and she's probably the most because she's a scientist that understands the genetics of what's happening. I believe, if I recall correctly. So her understanding of the world is different from everyone else. And but again, I agree with you though that like anytime you have like 5 main characters like this, I mean it's hard to flesh them all out, and I that's fair. I can't. I'll give you that.
And that's just one of the things. Again, like and it's part of the acting. When they act, they're fine. I love Natalie Portman in it. And Oscar Isaac is always good in anything he does. There's a like it's like the film.
It just doesn't work.
I love science fiction,
Sure.
and this film borrows from many science fiction. I mean, it's not original per se in the aspect of filmically. I mean, story wise, yeah, maybe.
Well, you got a crew was sent in, that doesn't come back, or at least one of them comes
and
back.
that's been done before.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's got elements of 2001. It's got elements of Aliens. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I mean, it's like the ending kind of fell flat for me. Because even if it's kind of being ambiguous if they are aliens or if they're not, or she's an alien, whatnot, whatever. I mean, I just felt like, I don't know, maybe I wanted more. I mean, because this whole thing with it opens up in, I don't know if it's China or Japan or, you get them talking to her and you understand that this is now global or maybe or not.
Oh, is that what was happening? Oh, I never.
Yeah.
That was never what I took away from that.
So what do you think of that?
I literally thought that was
Japanese
just the place where they were holding Oscar Isaac.
No, because
like the facility that's right outside the Shimmer. That's where I thought they were interviewing her.
Okay,
The quarantine place.
Because he mentions how it's now spread. And
did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah,
I've seen this movie like 7 times.
And so, I mean, and then again, she. Not that she's going to hold the key to save the world, and
I thought they said that it disappeared. I think when they burned the lighthouse, or when she burns the lighthouse,
okay.
I think the Shimmer disappeared.
Okay, but
I could be totally wrong. Did I totally miss that? There's no way that I got that wrong.
I'm going to watch it again because you're saying it gets better every time. So I definitely got to watch it again. I mean, you know what I love too? I did love the animals, not so much the crocodile, which was kind of cool.
Bear, though,
the bear
really
was amazing.
Good. Yeah.
I did dig that the mutation went to that effect. But it made me feel flat. Like the whole thing with the aliens at the end and trying to reciprocate each other. Of course, that's the thing right there. The whole dance type thing was kind of cheesy.
Well, it wasn't a dance. He was imitating her.
No, understood.
Or he,
like
or whatever.
The thing, not done as good as the thing, but kind of.
Oh, see, I thought that scene was amazing.
Kind of
when the score kicks in for
lyrically,
the first time.
yeah, like a dance. It's like he was. I mean, I can't say I don't like art house science fiction films because I do. I love 2001 is one of the greatest, and to this day, I think the best art house science fiction film ever. But I just felt like that was kind of, to me, you know what that brought up to me, and because it's Natalie Portman, started thinking of Black Swan. Because she's dancing, and I don't know if that was the image she wanted, because he's, but
I found that to be horrifying, in a way that, like, in a unique, but it's not a dance.
Well, okay, I'm
like
sorry.
It's
but
well, so what I think is interesting about it, and again, I don't like. So I've shown this movie to a fair amount of people because that's why I've seen it so many times. Yeah. And every time it gets a different reaction because it is kind of a slow burn, which may just burn out the tension for some people, and I can't argue with that.
Maybe that
I get
happened.
It.
Yeah.
I saw it on the big screen though, which definitely impacted my opinion because it's just a visual. Like it's like I can't imagine having been like stoned or something while seeing it because it's like it's just visually it's. It is
it's
mesmerizing. It's not even like I wouldn't describe. I mean, it is beautiful at times, but it's a movie that like it. I feel like it casts a spell on you. I don't know. It's a movie that I when I first saw it, I was like, that was really interesting, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like I couldn't get it. Like I just feel like I still don't understand it. Like I don't know. There's
and I'll say that it's very ambiguous. And it did,
but
leave
in an
me
interesting
wanting,
way, because I don't always like ambiguous.
And seeing that, and that's me. I didn't like the ending because of the ambiguousness of it, and I didn't dig it. And to me, I'll be honest, since I'm me, I thought that she is the alien. The alien did come out, and Natalie Portman's dead inside the whatever was left of the shimmer, or the lighthouse is gone, or whatever. But I mean, again, I wanted more. I felt there was going to be more. I wanted more of the creatures. I mean, you only got the crocodile, you got the bear. And I think maybe there was like something else, like something smaller.
Well, they find the remains of the former team. That
Okay, but I mean, of the animals, you know, I mean, this world. I wanted to see this world, the mutated world more.
I think so. Like, so my understanding of this film though is that, and I am. For those that have listened to any of our podcasts, I'm not the most. Like when it comes to like the themes of movies, that's not my specialty. I like movies almost on a surface level. Like I'm dumb. But my understanding of this movie though is that the force that came to Earth, whatever it is, the aliens, whatever you want to call them, weren't necessarily trying to create or destroy. They're trying they're almost just they're like manipulating the world. Like they're not even it's kind of like what
wouldn't that be
Tessa Thompson. Well, but Tessa Thompson describes it as it's like refracting. It's like the light coming or the air. She's talking about the radio signals going through the bubble or like refracted, and so they're still coming through. They're changed. And so it's like, for instance, at the end.
But you're saying, then why? So what would be their thing? Just to see what would happen? I mean,
well, I don't know that the aliens.
You're saying if they wanted to take over the Earth, they were definitely trying to do something.
It's not even when I said not creating and destroying. I think it's pure creation. I think is what they describe it in the movie.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that to a planet that already has life? I mean, you're destroying all life just.
Well, but so that's the thing is I don't think it's
unless they thought the lighthouse would have been this like unoccupied place, but it spread unfortunately, and they didn't realize that was happening. But at the end, it shows that they want to replicate, that they want to or make better or whatever, refract us. And then I'm saying that's where the whole sly annihilation comes in, because they're behind the wall there, like chilling and waiting, and. That's what I'm saying, because I don't agree with that, because obviously they do want to, even if they're like, we're not coming to shoot everybody, blow everybody up like War of the World.
Well, they're just imitating to some degree.
I know.
It almost doesn't feel like, so even when she gets pressed against the door,
which was amazing. I like that scene. That was
the score. I just think that score is like it's so masterfully like placed in that moment. Like I don't know. I love the choice to not use it up until then.
Again. I guess by that time I was so annoyed I didn't listen.
Well, all it was like a country. There's like I forgot the name of the artist, but there's throughout the whole film it's just kind of a light, almost it's like a Western score almost.
I give you that. There was some
and then when she goes into the lighthouse, you hear that the kind of electronic like
you know what? I'll do it again. Score. I'll do it one more time to see if I catch some of these things. But I mean, Again, I just to me, I felt like if there was a slide, maybe it went over my head. Maybe it was too, like you said about you being done with thematic.
Well,
maybe it did go over my head too. But people do say it's on that level. But I mean, even so, I just felt it was unsatisfying. You know what I mean? I just felt like I wanted more. I wanted more of some type of explanation. I wanted more of, because you're giving me all this stuff, and I'm like, well, why did they say that in the movie?
I understand what you're saying because I felt the same way, but it was more of an intrigue,
I guess.
than
maybe
a
for
frustration.
You. Yeah, maybe for you. Yeah. And I'm not, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying for me, I mean, I guess maybe, and again, I mean, and not to say this is not your strong suit. I mean, I know you're not with the history of film, but I mean, I guess I just said, I mean, this is supposed to be an original film, but it borrows. Homages so many films, and like I said, the whole ending where it became the thing. I kept saying, it's a better movie to me and a better way of replicating or imitating, which they do say that in the film. They say they're imitating us, and I'm like, maybe visual, like, and again, I say the dance because the way they move, and it's kind of graceful, that whole scene. And it wasn't to me what I wanted in this movie. Like after seeing that badass bear, which is fucking amazing.
Well, and that's fair.
I wanted to see them mutate into something better.
You almost want the movie to become more of a horror film. As a fan of horror, like I think that's what we want.
And maybe I did want that because of the horrific mutations you see inside the Shimmer.
It feels like that's the natural
so why
progression.
Would they imitate them? Basically the same way, but they didn't do that to the crocodiles, the alligators, the plants, the bugs. But with humans, they're going to replicate exactly them or imitate them exact same way. I wanted something more. I wanted it better, and I wanted when we saw Oscar Isaac or anybody else from the old team, and even the ladies who came in, the women who came in, I wanted to see them get transformed, these horrific beings. And maybe I would have been like, oh shit, this is where it's at, because this is what I thought the Shimmer would be, and instead it's just like a basic old Vision of the Body Snatchers type thing, where now Natalie Portman may or may not be the imitated copy from space, who now is in our world, who may continue doing it subtly and slyly, and it wasn't all that I wanted it to be. I wanted more from that, and I guess I was kind of let down because of that. That's just me. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, and it didn't have to be horror, because if it was just all straight up sci-fi, but they introduced the elements of horror within the transformations. And they didn't follow through with the humans. Only on the animals and the plant life and the insects, but not the humans. That didn't make sense to me. And I thought that's where he dropped the ball. Just saying.
You're wrong.
I know, because you even started to agree, and then you said, all right, you're wrong.
No, I'm just giving you shit. I think...
and it's okay for you to like the film. I didn't say... Well, you actually love it. I liked it, but I wanted more. I expected more from it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because like I said, I did love the visuals. You're right. I want to watch it again now because what you said about the thematic score, the music.
There's little. So again, I don't. This movie might all be bullshit. Like I'm not saying that the film has like this that it is perfectly like wrapped, and just complete. I'm not saying that. There's little details, like for instance when the house where they get attacked by the bear.
The bear, yeah, that's cool.
Is when Natalie Portman walks in, she recognizes the fact that it's some kind of replica of her home, and you see like the pictures on the wall that they don't show you, but you see that she recognizes, and there's moments like that where you're like, why is that there, And there's even echoes of like auditory echoes of things from outside. Like there's just these weird details that are. I feel like they're like a puzzle that I want to figure out, and I don't. I just feel like the movie doesn't, and the movie may literally not have the answers to all that, but it feels like there's something under the surface of everything that's happening.
And I give you that. And if with that, it intrigues me to watch it again to see if there's more clues. But even then, it does show you that they imitated her, because if they're showing her home, they must have got into her head to get that. And then the Natalie Portman.
Well, and that's what's interesting though, is it's like, is it just, how far does the Shimmer go genetically? Like how far, like like what you described is it the aliens like infiltrating her mind, or is it just that like the Shimmer it's to some degree you're seeing, your own memory inside, like I don't know.
And if you want to go there, I dig it because the whole the refraction. Then why no one else?
Well, but they all describe, so they like, it's almost like Blair Witch when they first get into the Shimmer, where they don't know how long they've been there. And I don't. So like Natalie Portman never calls attention to those details I just described.
Yes.
But it's what she experienced, right? So I feel like there's a good chance that the other people in the group also experience things like that.
I can accept that if it's mentioned or if it's alluded to, and then that's just us making the. And again, in all respect, that's just then you making the film what you want it to be in that aspect. That's fine.
But like when they walk into the house that is the house that Natalie Portman lives in, and she recognizes the pictures on the wall, that's not undertone. That's like a literal thing that happens.
But I'm saying, but then you're saying. We don't know if they all saw their own house, and I'm like,
well, but so like these characters at that point in the film still don't really understand what they're seeing, right?
But
they describe
that would have been a big thing to say for us to get that, because almost like,
and most of them are literally going crazy.
That movie Michael from 1995 with John Travolta, a good movie. This one has declined right after Pulp Fiction, and he's the Angel Michael, the Archangel. And everyone who comes in contact with him says, "Oh, he smells like vanilla. Oh no, but he smells like my grandma's apple pie. Oh, he smells like the other." They all get like when he comes into your presence, you smell the thing that makes you happy the most. This then makes me think of what you're saying.
I'm going to compare it to.
Why did the girl say?
I'm going to compare it to another film that's completely underrated, Bird Box, a movie where fear becomes what you think it is.
But that's actually said. This movie you're saying is maybe that's what's happening. I'm like, well, then allude to it, and it's not alluded.
But it's not necessarily fears. It's not necessarily. I think it's just. It's almost like fears. Echoes from a past. Like it's what it feels like.
And I'm accepting that thing.
I think Natalie Portman even said that in an interview. Actually, is maybe where I got the phrase
that
echoes.
Should have been with everyone, or there should have been another scene where Jennifer Jason Leigh's character notices something, and Tessa Thompson's character notices something.
Well, but there's a common thread though that they're all there because they're all self-destructive, and I feel like.
So you're saying since she's the best one, that's why they're focusing on her and they're replicating her because this is the one out of all these, her husband's crew. Her crew.
Well,
this is the one we're going to replicate.
I don't understand at all what the alien's motivation is. That I'm not commenting. There are other videos on YouTube that have better explanations.
You do watch those things?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Anytime I don't understand
a film, watching
explanations.
Yeah.
And ultimately, but the reason I'm watching those, it's kind of like when you with Bird Box, right? Which Bird Box didn't work for me, but because it worked for you, you were intrigued by the little details around it, right? And I feel like that's how I feel about Annihilation. It's like it's a really technically well made. It's got all the things.
And again, I like it.
But at the same time, like I feel like and I think when I did discuss it in my top 10, I think I described it as like it gets the science right from a science fiction standpoint. Like, and I'm not saying it's based in any kind of reality. I'm just saying it's the science of it's interesting.
And I agree with
you. And that's what I enjoy about good sci-fi is when the rules of its world are fascinating. And especially when you don't fully grasp them. And that can be frustrating for some, and I understand that. So it's like it's not really a divisive film because it's not like I think, but I do understand why somebody wouldn't enjoy it. But you're not maddened by it.
I was worried that we were going to fight for longer, but no, I understand what you're saying. And again, and this is another bad thing about the film, or shall I say the whole production, I guess. It was on everyone's critics and top 10 list, but if I ask a regular normal human being, hey, you saw that movie Annihilation? What's that?
Well, but that's a problem with the release, though. Yeah, so this is a smaller. I mean, Ex Machina that was a hit because it played all the festivals. Yeah. Right, Annihilation got just completely fumbled by Netflix. So that was a Netflix acquired. I don't know. So I don't think they produced or made the film. I think they distributed it though in global markets. So like England. It only played in Netflix. I don't think it actually played on Netflix in America,
Canada has certain things.
So it got a theatrical run in America, and then in other places it was only on Netflix. So so it didn't play globally, and so nobody saw the fucking thing.
Yeah, I agree with
is what happened, and that's unfortunate because I think it's an interesting film. Regardless of whether or not it may be bullshit. I don't think it is though, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it works on just a pure horror sci-fi level, just a survival horror level. I think there's interesting enough elements like that the world is being changed and it's killing them. That's interesting in itself enough for me. But it also works on that science fiction level for me, and it has me, intrigued, and I just can't quite figure it out.
So.
But if it didn't work for somebody, I understand why they wouldn't care about all the extra bullshit underneath. So I get it, right? That's
And not that I don't care. I just want that where I don't have to go to a YouTube channel. And I think maybe that's what where you got me on Bird Box. But I'm saying it's not that it wasn't there. It was there. I just wanted to learn more about the demons that he was talking about.
But I don't.
And the explanation videos got into it.
Well, when you described that, I was like I totally I saw all that there, right?
Yeah.
And I went, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of my reaction to it.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I just didn't care about the film.
Yeah.
I think Annihilation works enough for me to be interested in those little details. But that's just fine, preference to some degree. Yeah. And I saw it at the right time where I got to see it in theaters.
Yeah, you did.
And I saw it in an empty screening. It was just like it was super late at night, and I felt like I didn't know where I was when I finished it. Like it was one of those kinds of experiences, and I wasn't on any drugs. Yeah. So I feel like, I don't know. I've just, since that came out in like February of last year, which is another reason nobody saw it.
Yeah, during Black Panther month.
Yep. And so, it had like a 2-week run, and I don't know. For me, the stars lined up, and I think it's a really interesting movie. But I understand why some people don't like it. So, what do you do? It's better than fucking Green Book.
Oh my God, let's not get that.
So we should end the show.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, next 2 more weeks we should get back together.
So I've seen Captain Marvel, but I'm not going to talk about it.
In the next show we definitely talk Captain Marvel, and hopefully I see Glass by then, so we can get into a superhero.
I don't know where you'd see Glass though. Is it out on DVD?
I'm waiting for the $2 theater though. It's not. It's in one theater.
Okay.
Showing at one point in time, so I'm pretty sure the $2 theater should grab it. I'm surprised they haven't, but they didn't get it this weekend, so I'm definitely going to have to watch it.
I'm trying to think what's out, because I'm curious to see. There's I want to see Fighting with the Family, because I like Stephen Merchant. Stephen Merchant, right? I don't know. He directed it.
Oh, he directed it. Okay, I was going to say the movie's about the WWE.
God, there's just nothing. Captive State looks interesting.
That does. We'll
see. I might try it. That I'd like to see.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I'm not going to go see the Medea movie. I guess I could go see Lego Movie 2. I don't know. I don't know what we'll do next time.
I haven't seen Lego Movie 2 yet.
I'm tempted to go see Greta. I'm just curious why that exists. It looks stupid.
Why it exists.
I'm just curious. We'll see, because I've got the next 5 days off.
Oh, enjoy it, bro.
So that's what you get when you work, 32 hours in 3 days. But yeah, so I'm sure I'll be bored, and I'll go see some stuff.
AMC 30. Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and Stan and Ollie, I want to say.
Oh, that too? Is that still at AMC?
It's at AMC. Go check it out, bro.
That's the one thing I'll give that theater, even though I fucking hate that theater. They do play a lot of movies, and they hold them as long as possible.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's Indecisive Cinema, episode 24.
Yeah.
We'll be back at some point.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll just talk about whatever we see.
All right. You guys take care.
Later.
Bye.